Crossroads Media.
I never thought I'd be this depressed to do a playoff episode of a Football Friday. There's really nothing left to say, though, right? I've banged my head against a wall for the last 6 weeks expressing what the hell is wrong with this football team, and now we don't know if Jalen Hurts is even going to be capable of throwing the football, and now we have no idea what the update is on A.J. Brown, and deep down, my gut screams that Nick Sirianni is playing this close to the chest. Why? Because of the competitive disadvantage, of course. If Todd Bowles in Tampa Bay knew the status of some of the players, when you have to go that deep into it, man, is that sad. But also, I think there's legitimacy to the finger injury that Jalen is dealing with. It sucks. Now, I'm not mad at the coaching staff for putting them out there in that final week. The players and the staff, well, you know, the staff does have blame because the reason why you lost 5 of your last 6 and you lose to New York and you lose to Arizona and you get pantsed by Drew Lock, 92-yard drive on the road. Gross, gross, gross. The reason why you are even in that predicament is because of the coaching staff and the players. So, yeah, maybe they do deserve some blame, but not for in particular playing them the final week, more so even putting yourself in a position where you have to play them the final week. Anyway, Jalen apparently not throwing the football since that final game. He's mad at himself for even going back into the game. Maybe this is even worse than I anticipated. And, you know, here it is. Here it is. There's a playoff game on the road against Tampa Bay. Whoop-de-damn-do. Here's another week of someone in the locker room roasting the fan base. Darius Slay. Oh, good thing we're not playing at home. Good thing we're not playing at the Link. The fans boo us too early anyway. They boo us too prematurely anyway. Oh, man. Now, I don't think it came from a bad place, but you got to realize that we're on edge right now, okay? You guys are on super thin ice, and that's why I guess Jason Kelce, they chose Jason Kelce to do their 60-second hype-up video. Did anybody get hyped up from that? Go read the comments. Did anybody go get hyped up? Did anyone get hyped up from that? I didn't. Oh, I know for damn sure I didn't. What stood out to me was Nick Sirianni using another one of those stupid quotes about a storm coming and we got to do this so then we can beat out the storm. All right. Well, let's see if these million-dollar athletes charge out the tunnel because they're afraid of Nick Sirianni's storm that's coming. It's very sad. Very, very sad. What else? We have no idea what's happening with Reed Blankenship. Why is the AJ news so quiet? It is bizarre for anything surrounding AJ to be on the back burner. Well, why? What are we missing? Is there a real fear that he ain't playing, that he won't be out there? Oh my God. This offense is already atrocious with him out there. Could you imagine if he wasn't? Oh, this can't be true. Maybe we can get what we want. Maybe, just maybe, the run game becomes explosive because you're afraid of asking Jalen Hurts to be in shotgun and throw the football 40 times to go win a damn game. Right now, okay, what is Tampa Bay's numbers in the passing game? You could do anything against Tampa. You could do anything against them. They're not very good. They just had their playoff lives on the line, and they won a game 9-0. And we have no idea what Baker Mayfield is going to show up. The problem is I don't know what Eagles team's showing up. And if I had to guess between the good version or the bad version, there's a higher probability it's the bad version. It doesn't sound like anybody actually believes in what they're saying. They're saying things because they have to say things. They're trying to spin it positive because they have to spin it positive. But I don't really feel the conviction. I don't really feel like they absolutely 1,000% agree with what's even coming out of their mouth. out. They're just giving you player speak. They are lost and clueless, and they don't have the answers. They should have enough talent to beat Tampa Bay, though. Even with that said, they should. And I heard Reuben Frank say this, and I never even processed this even possibly happening. I never even thought about it. That's how down bad I am on this team. But what do you do with Nick Sirianni? All because of the speculation happening, right? And it's a very interesting point. What would you do with Nick Sirianni if they were to play a magnificent game and lose? Now, I don't know if that's possible, right? What would a magnificent game be? If your offense is flowing, putting up 40-something, but your defense allows 40-plus and more than what you scored, well, then your defense clearly didn't do its job. And then if you win a game 21 to or lose a game 21 to 18, then your offense didn't do good. I don't know a way that they could. But you know what? Sometimes the scoreboard doesn't indicate the dominance. So what if they put up 300-plus yards, a couple turnovers happen, so the numbers aren't as big on the scoreboard? I don't know. Because then you're going to rip them for not being detailed enough, and that's part of Nick Sirianni's obsession, is being detailed. So at that point, I guess there's no way. There's no way. I'm trying to find a way possibly where that would make sense, but I guess there's really no way that you can lay out a path where that's the case. So there's nothing to debate with Nick Sirianni's job if that does happen. I guess. Here's the most annoying part of it all. Baldy and Sal Pal both spoke, and Baldy and Sal Pal had very interesting things to say about this team, both in response to the offense and how horrible it is. And I screenshotted the Sal Pal quote, and it goes a little something like this. The Eagles are not vanilla on offense. They're generically vanilla. They're the vanilla that you get in the back of the freezer at the grocery store. It's not Breyers. It's generic vanilla. Player after player that I've talked to, former players have used this term. It's a high school offense, and it's very easy to predict. And then here's Brian Baldinger on watching the Eagles' offensive film on Part of My Take. If I was playing defense against the Eagles, I would just be yelling their plays out. It's that predictable. I know guys at the bar in South Philly who can make the same play calls. These two have been around the league for a long damn time. That is gross to hear. That makes the shivers on my back happen. My hair sticking up, but in a bad way. It's not goosebumps where you're feeling a good moment now and you got the shivers down your spine like, whoa, something's happening here. This is like, fuck, there's an issue. Fuck, this football team is a disgrace, and they have no idea what they're doing offensively, and they have no plan, and they have no identity, and they have no structure, and they're not detailed, and their coach is confused, and their OC is confused, and their DC is confused, and the guy that they fired and then put upstairs, and he still has the DC title, is confused, and the defensive line's confused, and A.J. Brown's confused, and Jalen Hurts doesn't have a finger. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Hey, guys, Football Friday, playoff game. Woohoo! Go Birds! Go Birds! This is one of the most pathetic Football Friday episodes to ever exist. I'll never forget this show. I'll be 65 years old, and I'll be thinking about Broads Media. Who knows what I'll be doing? Maybe I'm a union electrician. Who the hell knows, right? But let's say I'm 65. Yeah, at 65, I'm going out there and working 7 to 3:30 in the heat in a high-vis shirt and a fucking hard hat. Who the hell am I right now? But let's say that happens in another universe, and I'm shooting the shit with the boys up top of the roof where we're putting on solar panels. Say, boys, back in 2024, when the Eagles were getting ready for their playoff game, I did a show that sucked because this team sucks, and I couldn't even engage in the X's and O's. Oh, where can they win? Oh, no, nowhere. If they play like crap, they can't win anywhere. Well, who's going to stop Mike Evans? Who's going to stop Godwin? Where's James Bradbury going to be? James Bradbury, we're going to see his numbers all night long because his back's going to be turned. His feet aren't going to be shuffling enough. His hips will be facing out of bounds when it should be facing the other. He's going to be twisting and turning like a damn whirlpool and stuck, and whatever happens with quicksand, it's going to be stuck. Stuck is my point. And it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Baker Mayfield, 400-plus yards. I mean, the Giants and Tyrod Taylor and Kyler Murray and the Cardinals were doing that at will. Doing that at will. And those teams are worse than Tampa Bay. The numbers. You want the numbers? I'll give you the numbers. The Cardinals. Ready for their yards? Oh, my God. I almost just threw up. 449. 449. The Giants had 415. What did the Giants have that first game? The first game they played, they had just under 300. The 49ers, this is comical to me, 456. The Bills, 505. What did the Dallas Cowboys have in Dallas? 394. What'd Seattle have? A whopping 297. I actually thought the defense didn't look half bad that game. It just came down to having one of the worst backup quarterbacks ever to put together a sensational drive, torching James Bradbury when there were young, inexperienced guys all over the field. We'll keep targeting Bradbury. Yeah, we'll keep going after the guy that's got nothing left in the tank. Thanks for coming. Okay. Hey, listen, you should go to TickPick. If you learned anything over the first 12 minutes of the show, go to TickPick. And if you click the link down below in the description, you will get $10 off of your purchase. It's a no-brainer. They have the best prices guaranteed. You want to go to a Flyers game, a Sixers game, a concert, or if you're not from Philadelphia and you're tuning in, thank you so much, you can use this for your respected city. The ticket prices will beat any of the major competing marketplaces, and TickPick is so confident about it that they guarantee it. If you find the same seats elsewhere at a better price than TickPick, you get 110% of the price difference in form of TickPick credit. So there's no upfront pricing, because nothing's worse than thinking you're spending $120 on tickets and by the end of it, they're $177.72 because of some fees. Well, no. The price you see on TickPick is the price that you pay at checkout, period, end of story. There's no added service fees, hidden fees, or otherwise, so make sure you get started today and join the TickPick family. Okay, let's go to the phones and run it, man. It's about you today on a Football Friday, preparing for some postseason ball.
Okay, what's up, Reds? Hope this one makes the Football Friday podcast, but
it did.
I want to say that I agree with you on Nick Sirianni needing to be fired. And I've just been thinking about it a lot and how it's looked. And I don't want to say that these guys are always right about everything, but I saw a clip of Colin Cowherd and Nick Wright. And like I said, we know these guys aren't always, the best to listen to, but Nick Wright made a really interesting point about Nick Sirianni. And if he wasn't coaching for the Eagles and if he got fired, would he have a head coaching job somewhere else? And I was like, you know what? He wouldn't. I don't think he would. I don't think he would, and I don't think he's a good coach, and I thought that was really interesting, and I've just been thinking about it a lot. And I feel like anybody who is saying that he can come back and he can fix it with two coordinators, I think that those people are just kind of living in the past and trying to remember the good Super Bowl times with Shane Steichen and, the team last year. But, I just don't see this guy getting it back on track, even if you bring in two great coordinators. I think the guy's kind of done. I really think that he's going to be a quarterback coach for the Carolina Panthers or some crappy team like that, or some, low-level position, because he just doesn't have an executive or head coach presence like that. So, love to know your thoughts. Anyway, keep up the good work, man. I'll see you.
Thank you so much. All right, a few things there. One, I'll start with the end with the whole he'll be a quarterback's coach. Now, that's where I think we're going too far down the list. I know he's not very creative with the scheme right now, offensively and all, but he's also in his 30s. There's a lot of learning you can do when you go through an experience like this, and it's not as if Nick Sirianni is an unwilling learner. I do think he puts the time in, and if there was something to go wrong and he was able to get another job, I think he would utilize these experiences to grow and develop as a head coach. Now, would someone hire him right away? I don't know. Teams right now are interviewing Brian Johnson, and if you told us 2 weeks ago that that would happen, we'd probably laugh in your face, right? So Nick Sirianni has at least been to the Super Bowl, but it's not a slam dunk. You're right. And to your point, if it's not a slam dunk and there are question marks, well, then there's clearly something behind the reasons we feel this way. If it's not an automatic, oh, he's getting picked up somewhere instantly, well, then there's concerns and there's some question marks and there's some reasons on why it didn't work out here and legitimate ones. I get it. Maybe some team is willing to. I didn't think Doug Peterson was the sharpest tool in the tool shed or in the toolbox. I guess I'm the one that screwed that up. What the hell does that say about me? And then he goes to Jacksonville, and there's some that would look for stability and look for someone who's just been around because, well, their franchise doesn't have the expectations that our franchise does. There's only a handful that have the go mode. You essentially have to win the whole thing, or we're not satisfied. And then there are some that would be willing to go to the playoffs every other year or go to the playoffs once every 3 years. And could Nick Sirianni provide that and then some? Potentially, depending on where that falls. So I don't know. It's a fair point, though, on where he would fall on the list of intrigue. Mike Vrabel is a name that's sexier right now. Obviously, Bill Belichick's gone, but it looks like they have the in-house candidate to step in. If you remember, the Eagles actually were interested in potentially looking in that direction, and I'm fascinated to see how he thrives in New England. It is an interesting hire, and I think it does have a lot of pop to it. It's fascinating, especially to follow someone's legacy like Bill Belichick. I'm convinced that I'd be willing to go after Bill. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that I'm here, but if I'm putting my both arms up and I'm saying, Broads, tell the truth right now. Nothing but the truth. You can't lie or your head explodes. I'd be intrigued by Bill Belichick. Oh, what a world. What a world we live in. And I don't think the guy just forgot how to coach. And I've used this against him before about the style of coaching nowadays compared to maybe when he was dominating in the early 2000s and the entire run that he had in New England. And there's truth to that. But sometimes there's still something to squeeze out of these great coaches, but it runs its course. The New England thing, Tom Brady left, what they did there, it's time for something new. It ran its course. It just is what it is. I still think that there's a lot of smarts and there's a lot of respect for what Bill brings, and there could be a new sense of urgency, a new fresh life for him too. There's a new chapter, the chapter after Tom Brady. Okay, it fizzled out its hat in New England, but it was probably set up to do that anyway when Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are your coordinators on the offensive side. Now, if he has full power and full control on what he brings in over in Foxborough, well, then the reasons why they stink is because of a decision made by Bill Belichick. Today's not the day for that. See, that's why I said this show sucks. It's a football Friday heading into a Monday night football game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm now internally debating and throwing crap at the wall to see if Bill Belichick would be awesome here. It sucks. It sucks. Now, the last thing I'll say about the previous call before we take the next one is this. He brought up that some believe if you had two good coordinators with Nick Sirianni, that it still wouldn't flourish next year. I don't agree with that. If Nick was to return and they did have two really good coordinators with him, I think this would be a damn good team. I think this would be a damn good team. I think this team would win a lot of games, and it's not just about winning games as we see this season, but it's about the style on how they do it and the belief with this city, and does their football make sense? If they had two really good if they had D'Amico Ryans as their DC right now and Ben Johnson as their OC and Nick Sirianni was the head coach, I think that works. I think you can win a Super Bowl with that. I do believe that, because it wouldn't fall apart this way because you would believe in what the offensive scheme is. The reason why it has collapsed is because nobody believes in the scheme part of it. It has nothing to do with questioning Nick Sirianni, the human being. It's all football related. It doesn't mean I want to live and survive, though, with a coach that needs that much behind him. It's too hard to fill those roles constantly if the mainstay isn't great. For example, with Kyle Shanahan, you can have guys plug and play inside of his offensive philosophy because he's the brains behind it. It makes it a lot easier compared to if he wasn't bringing that to the table and it's like, well, who's the next OC? Well, the next OC is basically running your entire offense. That's a lot of pressure on continuing to hire OCs that get plucked nonstop. You need the bread and butter to be with the main steadiness. And if it's an OC that brings the bread and butter, then that's not the case. All right, next call.
Hey, bros. I'm disgusted just as much as every other Eagles fan at the collapse that they pulled off. It's one of the worst collapses I've ever seen out of a team that I root for. It's very Gabe Kapler-esque, to be honest.
Wow.
But this is the way that I look at it right here and now, heading into this game against the Buccaneers. The Eagles have nothing to lose. And they should be playing like they have nothing to lose. The team that I'm probably going to compare them to heading into the playoffs are that Montreal Canadiens team that beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in the bubble a couple years ago. They had no expectations, really didn't deserve to be there, but they went on a nice little run and won a playoff series because they played like they had nothing to lose. The Eagles need to go into this playoff game feeling confident because, well, there's a lot of issues with the roster and a lot that has to be sorted out by Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie next year. What can I say? Like, what can I really say? Like, you're in the playoffs, you're here, win 4 games and you're champions. Like, what's the point of not going out there and losing? Oh, just to get a coach fired? Whatever happens, happens. Like, I want the Eagles to go on a playoff run. It probably won't happen, and I know that it probably won't happen, but I'm curious to see how the team actually responds come playoff time. If they choose to kick it to another gear, then yeah, maybe it's not the situation isn't as bad as we thought. If nothing changes, then we just make the adjustments heading in the next year. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on all this, bros. Let's go, Birds.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to call in. They have nothing to lose. I feel that sounds easier said than done, and that sounds great in theory, but I don't think that's the case. They were expected to win a Super Bowl. They were expected once they went 10-1, regardless on, well, it's very difficult to make it to the Super Bowl, lose, and then have a really good season the following year. Regardless on if that's true or not and whether that's fair or unfair to the personnel and to the roster, when you were as high as you were, and even though that there were reasonable question marks when they were winning. How were they winning? Did they get lucky? And were they closer to maybe being a 7-win team during that 10-1 stretch instead of a 7-win team and a few bounces went their way? So let's say they were 7-4 through the 11 instead of 10-1. Was that probably more of a reasonable result? And probably yes. If Kansas City didn't drop a pass and if the Buffalo Bills weren't off the pages. They weren't on the same page. They were on different pages in overtime. You have 2 more losses. But you can play the if game for a lot, and every team goes through those ifs. If Dak Prescott didn't step out about, yeah, but Brandon Graham was on his ass and forced him to do that. There was a big tackle right in front of the goal line that the Eagles forced that to happen. So sometimes there's a reason why it occurred. Do they have no pressure and they can play loose? Nah, when the coach's job is in the crosshairs and when everyone's discussing if this game makes or breaks the coach's tenure here, I don't know if you can escape that. There's too much noise. The team wants to play away from their own building because of the hostility and how tense it gets. A.J. Brown, I guess, is messing around on Twitter. Where's his account? Why is everything so quiet? They're desperate. And when you get this desperate, I don't know if you can dig yourself out of the desperation to a level of you could play free and you could play casual and just go out there and play your game. They're too tense for that. They can't get out of the tense mode. That description is almost, to me, when a team is playing San Fran. I guess that's not okay because they have a bye week. Who's playing Dallas? Green Bay. I think Green Bay has a level of house money as long as they give up a resilient effort. They could go to Dallas, lose, but if they lose 30-something to 28, and it's a 3-point game, and wow, Jordan Love looked awesome, and they can really take pride into the offseason and be excited for the future there, and he really turned it on, and they got some answers. All right, is Jordan Love the guy? Let's put a check mark there. He played phenomenal on the road, even in a loss, though. It wasn't his fault. Other things messed up, but we like where we're at. That's house money. This isn't house money. To a degree, I almost think Tampa Bay has some house money involved, because if the Eagles do go shellac them, maybe the talking point is, well, the Eagles found themselves, and the Eagles were always more talented than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, their head coach might have some pressure. He's got to win a playoff game. So it's not apples to apples, but that's kind of how I would describe it. And you want me to tell you how I would describe HelloFresh? Okay, I will. They're the greatest thing to ever happen in my life. A crazy schedule can make it easy to fall back into your dinner time recipe rut. So keep mealtime exciting with over 40 recipes to choose from every week. So there's always something delicious to discover with HelloFresh. HelloFresh does all the shopping and meal planning for you. And ingredients arrive right at your doorstep, and it's pre-portioned with easy recipe cards, step by step. They're pictured. It's the easiest thing in the world, and it's less expensive than takeout. So 25% less expensive. If you go to HelloFresh.com/50broads, you get 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50broads and use 50broads for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Back to the phones. Let's do it.
Yo, bros. It's Frank. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thanks, Frank.
Love the show, bro. You do awesome. Anyway, I think Sirianni should stay. Get 2 new coordinators in here. See what they can do. But I definitely think Sirianni gets one more crack at it. Go Birds.
Maybe. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I guess ESPN right now on Get Up, I see Crossing Broad put up a blog about it. I don't think you should rule it out. And they're speaking about Nick Sirianni being fired if they lose to the Bucs. I don't think you should rule it out, because I think if the organization decides it's gotten bad there, inside the building, culturally, all that kind of thing, I think they've shown in the past that they're not afraid to move on. Doug Peterson was just 2 years removed from winning the Super Bowl, which no other coach in the history of the organization has ever done. And they got rid of him because of the way that season ended. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on. If things go very badly for them Monday night in Tampa, and you're looking at least 2 months, and you're looking at the last 2 months and going, this is not it. Yeah, so, that's basically what we've all been saying as a city, and I think that that's a fair point to make. Doug obviously only won 4 games compared to winning 11 games, but you know what else has changed? The league. And excuse me one second. Excuse me. Had something stuck in my throat. But the league has changed. Coaching has changed. You're losing Bill Belichick. You're losing Pete Carroll in a move that's strange. I guess he still wanted to be on the sidelines. I didn't dive in too much to it, so it's just the cliff notes, the spark notes, the headlines, which could tell a fake story, but that's kind of the gist I'm getting from a 1,000-foot view. Bill's time probably ran out, but the Seahawks going, nah, Pete Carroll, no thank you. My point is, Mike Tomlin at the time before he went on that nice spurt at the end, is it up for Mike Tomlin? These coaches get bounced around like it's nothing. Mike Vrabel, Tennessee, no thank you. We don't need you. What's next? What's that new shiny toy? The league, from ownership to coaching standpoint, has even got quicker too. It's not just the Eagles. I think it's a part of the culture of the league currently. Not that that's great. Not that that's anything magnificent. I still like the idea of having continuity and having someone who's been there for years and years. I don't want turnover every 3 or 4 seasons. I don't want new coordinators and new coordinators, yes, because that means you're having a lot of success and people are poaching from your staff. But I don't want it to get to the point where you're firing due to the fact that they're underperforming and it's brutal and harsh. I want it because you have stability with your head coach and people want to constantly go to your coaching tree. Will he get another chance? I don't know. I'm almost, and no disrespect to the caller, thank you so much for calling, Frank. It's not about the call. It's more just about doing this every single day and how tired I am of this Nick thing. I'm so beat up by the conversation. I don't have anything left to say about it. He hasn't done well. One game shouldn't sway the decision of the front office, but it very well may. Crazy enough. All right, what do you got, Sean?
I will say this about the matchup Monday night. Of the teams the Eagles could have drawn in the first round of the playoffs, this is probably their best opportunity at a win. You have a team who is not very good, who you've beaten before in their stadium, and it's basically going to be a glorified home game for Philly because there's going to be more Eagle fans there than Buccaneers fans.
They don't want that, though.
But for the Eagles to win that game and throughout the playoffs, the offense is going to have to carry them. That's pretty obvious. They're going to have to be letter perfect. They're going to have to score a touchdown pretty much every time they have the ball because the defense can't stop anybody. They're going to have to win games old school San Diego Chargers 1981, like 42-35, 38-35, etc. What we're going to see Monday night in a supposedly, shocker, bad weather game, which we've gotten pretty much every week this year, God only knows.
Oh, go Birds! Right? Woohoo! Football Friday pod. Playoffs, baby. Woo! Play a perfect game. Play a perfect game. You know you have no shot, Sean. When the only way you can win is to play a perfect game. Because there's no way in hell that this team is going to play a perfect game. There's no way in hell that this team is going to play a perfect game. My predictions. Do I give it yet? Am I going to have another Eagles pod before Monday night? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. The Flyers are red hot. Sixers are playing without Embiid. I don't know. So do I get my predictions now? Sure. Why not? Well, I don't know the update on Jalen throwing the football. I say they lose. What's the score? I don't know. Does it matter? Does it matter if they lose by 1 or lose by 7 or lose by 35? Maybe. Maybe losing by 1 doesn't lose Nick Sirianni's job. Losing by 35 would. Losing by 1 should too, by the way. Just say. They lose. That's my prediction. I hope you stayed around 33 minutes for that comment. I hope that gives you what you're looking for. All right, everybody. I love you to death. You know that. Go Birds.